103.2 Preston FM.
Your community, your radio.
I'm pleased to say that my next guest is in the studio with me now, and it's Pagpa from the Buddhism Centre here in Preston. So a very good afternoon to you.
Hello, Hughie, and thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you. And it's interesting when everybody knows the word, don't they? Buddhism.
Yeah, it's quite popular, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was saying last time we had one of your colleagues from the Buddhist Centre here a few months ago, that, I mean, lots of people will go out, and in most people's homes you often find a small Buddha.
Yes, he gets around, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does get around in many, many forms, from very, very tiny ones to Buddhas that you can't carry home from the garden centre.
Sure. Yeah.
So, I mean, he is so popular. And yet so many people probably know so little about him. So I thought it might be a nice place to start the interview is, what does the word Buddha mean, and who was Buddha?
Yeah, well, Buddha was a historical figure. In other words, he actually existed, and he was born in 624 BC in India. And Buddha means someone who was awakened from the sleep of ignorance and who sees things as they really are. So the thing about Buddha, he worked on his mind using meditation to improve his compassion and his wisdom until it couldn't be improved anymore. That's what it means to be enlightened, to be so full of positive qualities that you can't improve anymore.
Would he have been seen as a god? Was he a god in whatever form people think of as a god?
Yeah, he definitely didn't want to be worshipped. That was one thing he was very clear about. No, he just saw himself as someone who wanted to benefit others, who wanted to help others to find inner peace. So he didn't want to be worshipped, and his job really was trying to teach people how to meditate and how to find peace within their own hearts.
So Buddhism then spread around the world from his teachings and from his thoughts, etc.
Yes, it went to a lot of Asian countries to start with, and then different. The two main forms of Buddhism. There's like what's called Mahayana, which is where people are working for the benefit of others, trying to achieve enlightenment to benefit others. And then Theravada, which is more common, which is where people just want to be free from suffering, so they just want to liberate themselves. But these teachings have spread from Asian countries now to the West, so there's a lot of... we've got something like 40 Buddhist centres in the UK alone, and we're in 39 countries worldwide. So Buddhism is definitely on the increase. It's getting more popular. And
would it be said to be a religion? In its own standing?
Yes, because although Buddha wasn't a god, he's a very highly spiritually developed person. And so, in a sense, we don't worship him as a superior, we worship him as a teacher, and someone who can teach us to become just like him. So I suppose in other religions you can't become God, but in Buddhism you can become Buddha. You can become the equal of Buddha. And that's what the aim is, really.
So where does Buddhism sit then within within the religious fraternity, like with the other, the Church of England, the Catholic Church, etc.? Where does Buddhism sit alongside the more traditional? Well, no, it isn't. I mean, that's the wrong word to use. The traditional religions.
Yeah.
Does it sit within the other religions quite easily?
I think because we have shared values, we believe in love and compassion and benefiting others and being unselfish and being community-minded and trying to help everyone as much as possible. So we have shared values, but we also have big philosophical differences. But that's okay too.
So what was it that Buddha taught?
Well, he taught that it's your mind that is the source of peace and happiness, and also of pain and suffering. So it's really the quality of your thoughts that determine whether you're happy or unhappy. So these days we believe that you can be happy by accumulating material things. So people believe you got a flash car and a big house and lots of money and expensive holidays, you'll be happy. And everybody's working really hard to try and improve their external conditions. But what really makes you happy is having a peaceful mind. And you can't buy that. And you can't buy love. You can't buy the things that are most valuable in life. Health. Because a lot of people are working very hard, but they're also getting very stressed. And so Buddhism can help you with your health as well. It can help you if you have a peaceful mind, then there's less stress and less tension in your body, less risk of heart attacks and strokes and other things. So It really helps you. And it also helps with a lot of problems in society like depression and anxiety. So it's fantastic. It just makes you feel really good.
Because we do, or most people, don't we? We do look outside ourselves constantly to be happy, don't we? We think that, as you say, those material possessions will make us happy. We think that that someone else is going to bring that happiness for us. So for most people, it is quite a difficult concept to believe that you can make yourself happy, and that rather than allow other people radiate out to you, you can radiate out that happiness and contentment and well-being to other people.
Yeah, and I think that's what's most beautiful about Buddhism. It's about becoming that source of peace and happiness for others. And so you're not really doing it for yourself. A lot of people think that meditation is a selfish activity, but it's actually designed to try and improve yourself so that you can be more effective in helping others.
And someone, when I said about the interview that we were going to be doing this afternoon, said to me, well, can anyone be a Buddhist? And do you need to have a teacher to be a Buddhist?
I think, definitely anybody can be a Buddhist, because you can just adopt the teachings of Buddha. But Buddha said not to believe what he said. He said, you need to investigate, you need to check it out for yourself, and then when it seems reasonable for you, then you can accept it. But don't just blindly believe. And yes, you do need a teacher, because I suppose if you really want to be good at anything, then you have to follow someone who's developed those skills. So it's very helpful to follow a teacher who already has some compassion, some wisdom, and some insight into inner peace.
And I think, am I right in saying that you are a teacher?
I am, yes, at the Buddhist Centre, yeah.
So when someone comes along, there are so many other questions I want to ask, but I'm also thinking about listeners who maybe that is a question that they've posed to themselves, is what would Buddhism... In fact, what relevance would Buddhism offer to most people in their daily life?
I think it shows a different way of living, a more holistic and spiritual way of living. Whereas before we're very kind of disconnected from the world. People are very self-centered. Not criticizing others, but that's just naturally how we are, that we naturally think about ourselves before we think about others. And so then we feel very kind of isolated and disconnected from the world. And that then leads to anxiety and insecurity and worry and depression. So I think Buddhism can just kind of calm your mind and give you some insight into life, even give you a meaning in life. Like one of the questions we would have maybe is like, why am I here? What is the purpose of life? So in Buddhism we say there's only two things that we need to do. We need to make ourselves lastingly happy, and then we need to use that happiness to make others lastingly happy as well.
So in a way, does this mean that you would be posing or asking questions that we tend not to ask of ourselves, even though maybe we've thought about why are we here, but it's something that we never then develop, or we don't look into that deeper, but probably a question that we would like to know an answer to. So when someone comes along and you're the teacher, how difficult is it to get that person to maybe look at themselves and behave and act and look at the world in a very different way from the way they were taught as children, and they develop, through their formative years, and they then develop through their teenage years, and yet that individual is really quite unhappy with themselves? How difficult then is it to get them into a state of enlightenment, that there is a different way of being as a human being?
Well, it can just be like an instant realization in some ways, that people suddenly realize, the way that we're leading our lives these days is going in the wrong direction. And they're able to make those changes fairly quickly. But these kinds of changes, they're very long term. And so all I can do is present the teachings. And then it's up to the individual to decide, how much they believe in them and how much they want to take them on board, how much they want to test them and then put them into practice in their everyday life.
And you in your own life, becoming a Buddhist, you saw from your point of view the benefits of being a Buddhist and Buddhism, practicing, the difference it made to your life?
Absolutely. I've been doing this now for 20 years, And when I first met Buddhism, I just felt like I've really found the answers now. I found some meaning in life and some direction. And it's made a tremendous difference to my life. It's made my life so much happier. I used to have quite a lot of anger, and that's reduced. And life's a lot more comfortable now. And I really love the idea of sharing this and helping others.
And what is karma? What is karma?
Yeah, karma's an interesting subject because it talks about how things really, why things happen the way that they do. So karma is like a special instance of the law of cause and effect, whereby the actions that we perform are the causes, and then the experiences that we have are the results of our actions. So we believe that our mind is like a field, and every time we perform an action, everything we think, say and do plants a little potentiality or seed in our mind for an experience at a future time. That future could be many, many lifetimes in the future, because we believe in reincarnation as well. So people often say, like, why is this happening? Why is this happening to me? And the answer is always because of a cause that we've created, maybe in a previous life, so we can't remember. And it seems, from that point of view, it seems like life is unfair sometimes, because things happen and you think, well, I didn't do anything to deserve that. But we've all performed actions in the past. And so every experience of happiness and suffering is the result of our own actions.
So does it mean that 24/7 that you're self-aware of, the way you are and the way you respond to other people and to situations? Is it because for most people they're not really self-aware? Things happen and you deal with it instantly, often in the wrong way.
Yeah.
But does it mean then 24/7 you are self-aware of how you respond to those situations or to other people?
You try to be. I mean, it's not that always that easy.
No, I
I'm
was
sure
thinking
you
as we're
understand,
talking, yes.
Yeah. So you try to be self-aware, which means you're always looking into your mind and you're always seeing what's going on. And so you try to see your reactions. Like when you see somebody that you don't like, you think, oh, my mind's like pushing them away to some extent. Why? So you're always kind of checking your mind and thinking like, well, don't think like that. And so you're always checking, but you're also seeing the good things in yourself as well, like those sparks of love and compassion and generosity and patience. And so there's a lot to be happy about, but also a lot to change. So it's about taking, complete responsibility for your own mind and the way in which you see the world.
And when it comes to meditation, I mean, are there many forms of meditation?
Yeah, there are many, many different types of meditation and different traditions of Buddhism as well. They practice different
traditions
meditations.
of Buddhism, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So like in Christianity, you've got Catholicism and Protestant, Church of England, Anglicans. You've also got within Buddhism like different denominations. So each one has like a different way of practicing. But all the meditations are designed to make your mind peaceful. Right. That's the primary purpose of meditation.
And is the cycle of, I know you talk often when I've heard or been talking to people who are Buddhists, and we've talked about reincarnation.
Yes.
Is it a belief that reincarnation is never ending?
It is, unless you do something about it. We believe in a cycle of birth, death and rebirth, which is primarily fueled by our ignorance. So it's our confusion about how things exist that drives us to create actions that then cause us to be reborn again and again in unsatisfactory states of existence. So one of the aims of Buddhism is liberation. So you want to liberate yourself permanently from that cycle, which we call samsara, cyclic existence. And we believe that cycle is the nature of suffering and pain. So people want to escape from it.
And the Buddhist Centre here in Preston has been, I think it's been here for quite some time, hasn't it? Many years.
Well over 30 years now.
And talk us through some of the, again for people who are listening maybe, if they come along to the Buddhist Centre, or they, as you say, maybe come along to ask questions, what are the procedures are? What is the process? It is usually that they will come along to classes with a teacher and then proceed that way. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, we have regular meditation classes at the centre for people who want to learn about meditation. And so we're like 3 main classes a week for people who want to take this further. So 10:30 on a Thursday morning, 7:30 on a Thursday evening, and then 10:30 on a Saturday morning. And we've also got a special public tour coming up as well on the 1st of October. We've got at the Mystery Tea House in Preston at 5:30 to 6:30. Then we've got a talk called Dealing with Stress and Depression. So everybody's welcome to that. And then food and drinks available before and after as well, that event.
And what about Buddhism and children? I mean, how important is education or with children the Buddhist life?
Well, I do a lot of work with schools. So we often get called in because they have Buddhism on the curriculum at school. And so I go along in my robes and I teach people about meditation and inner peace and maybe do some little prayers with them or something. And it's very good. I've been to lots of schools and I always get a very positive reaction.
And I mean, do you have families who are Buddhists who also bring up their children within the Buddhist faith or religion, if that's a way to term it?
Yeah, we do. We do have families with children who've been brought up in the Buddhist way of life. And not at our centre, but other centres within our tradition, we have like classes for children. So they can come along and do some meditation and play some little games and stuff that will teach them about Buddhism. So there are specific classes for children.
And what is when people are chanting within when they come along? What is it? What is it? Is the chanting? What are you doing when you're actually chanting?
Well, the prayers that we chant, they have a very deep spiritual meaning. So they're like meditations, really. So while you're chanting or singing the words, you're trying to think about the meaning at the same time. So it's like a meditation. It's like in deepening your experience of positive states of mind. But that kind of chanting is kind of optional, really. We do have a very short prayer that begins all of our classes, but it's up to people whether they want to join in or not. And if they don't like it, well, it's only a few minutes long, so it shouldn't be a major obstacle.
And in your own life, what was it when you went along for the first time, or you met a teacher or went along to a class? What was it that said to you, this is right for me and this is going to make a difference in my life?
Yeah, I suppose my first experience of going to the centre was quite unusual, seeing the statues, and then in front of these statues we have like bowls of water as offerings, and sweets and chocolates and honey and cakes and flowers and things like that. So it seems a little unusual, and maybe like it feels a bit like an Asian culture, but it's not really an Asian practice making these offerings. So when I first went along, straight away I started to hear about really important ideas I was able to put into practice straight away, like the difference between love and attachment. I think that's a very important thing to understand. Whereas, when you love someone, you want to make them happy, and it's unselfish. But attachment is like wanting someone to make you happy.
Yes.
And then you have all kinds of possessiveness and expectations that come from that attitude of mind.
And lots of people will understand that.
Yeah, and so a lot of people think, when you hear love songs on the radio, it's like things like, oh baby, I need you, I can't live without you. That's not love, that's attachment. So there's a big difference between love and attachment that a lot of people maybe don't appreciate. I didn't understand it really until I met Buddhism, but that's been one of the most useful concepts in my life, to know when I'm in a relationship for me and being very demanding and selfish, and when I'm in the relationship because I want to be a giver and to help others.
And yesterday, I don't know if I can make a comparison here, or if what I want to actually put across I will get right. Yesterday I went to a christening in a church, not in Preston, I would just say, but I went to a christening which lasted for the service for probably an hour and a half. It was very cold, it was very impersonal, and the people, apart from the people who were attending the christening, sadly in the church, were quite elderly. and they were asking in the church for younger people to get involved with the choir, etc. And it was quite evident from talking to people at the church and seeing the people in the church that this church, that of course has been there for many, many generations, now is struggling to have parishioners going along, and is certainly struggling to get young people going along. Is that the same within Buddhism?
I don't think so. I mean, we don't get masses of numbers of people attending our classes, but in general, I think Buddhism is on the increase. And I think whether something is popular or not popular, and whether it's well attended, is whether people feel as if they're getting something from that. And so what I think is important is that whatever you believe, it's part of your life. It's not just something like you don't keep your spiritual practice for Sundays, and then you know, for the rest of the week you don't think about it, and then you just do it on Sunday and then forget about it for the rest of the week. Not criticising anyone who goes to church. No, of course I am. No. But it's like the Christian way of life, isn't it? It has to be a way of life. So I find that with Buddhism as well, it's got to be a way of life. It's got to be every day. It's got to be in your mind most of the time.
So in some respects then, could you say it's quite a selfish religion? Or that would be totally incompatible with what we're just talking about?
I wouldn't say it is selfish, because it's really about improving yourself so that you're more effective at giving love, and that you've got less issues yourself. Because when you're in a relationship with someone, it's like people have their own needs and their own issues, don't they?
Yes.
And that sometimes impinges on the relationship, because you've got two people who've got like different wishes, different intentions, different needs. That can pull the relationship apart. So in Buddhism, we're learning to accommodate another person. We're learning to accept that their happiness is even more important than our own. And that creates stable, long-term relationships, harmonious relationships. That's what we're aiming for. So Buddhism is like a training to accommodate others as well, and to feel close to others and to help others as much as possible. So no, I wouldn't say that it was selfish.
So once on the journey of Buddhism, it is continual self-evaluation, in a way self-discovery really, of how you can help others and how you can support others by also doing the same for yourself.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because what I found personally is that the more I understand myself, the more I understand others, and the more I can empathise with their situation. And so I can feel compassion for people who even have done very negative things. So I think self-discovery and self-understanding leads to us to be able to understand others and society in general, and what's good and what's bad for others. So I find it very, very helpful.
Well, I could have talked a lot more with you, but time's sadly run out. I'm not far off the end of the programme. So, Pagpa, just tell us about how people then can find out more and about the classes that are coming up.
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Huey. So, I just want to encourage people to come along to the public talk at the Mystery Tea House on the evening of Wednesday, the 1st of October. So that will be 5:30 to 6:30. And so my colleague Kelsang Garma will be giving a talk on dealing with stress and depression. So that will be a very good introduction for people. And then we've also got other events. We've got like a weekly meditation class on a Friday lunchtime at the centre that's free from 1 to 1:30. And we also have a free lunchtime class at Korova Arts Centre and Bar, the cafe, at 12:30 till 1. And people are very welcome to come along. That's also a free event.
Well, can I thank you for coming into the studio this afternoon? Thanks,
Hugh. It's been lovely. I've enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Sunday nights from 9. Join Steve Franklin live for Preston FM's weekly request show.
Could I have some Pink Floyd for my mum?
Gino by Dixie's Midnight Runners.
Can I request 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton, please?
What a way to make a live.
Lavender by Marillion.
Sunday nights from 9. 103.2 Preston FM. The weekend stops here.